as Mike said, my name is Brooke Van Dusen. I run developer relations for developer success at Twitch. For those of you that have not heard of Game Developer Success, it's a joint venture between Twitch and Amazon that we announced at GDC this year. And very basically, we want to do exactly what the title says. We want to help developers be successful in all aspects of working with the Twitch platform. And one of the most important things about that is making a game that has the potential to do very well on Twitch. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So diving straight in, I want to first just make sure we're all on the same page before we get started. And so there's a few key assumptions this talk makes, and I just want to get those out there. The first thing is that this talk assumes that you guys in some capacity make games. There's a lot of different ways in which you can approach the Twitch platform. You can approach it from a marketing standpoint and a PR standpoint. This talk assumes that you're approaching it from a game development standpoint or a game design standpoint. It assumes you're somewhat familiar with the Twitch ecosystem. You understand that Twitch is focused on live video, is a live video and chat community, which is very different than YouTube, which is primarily video on demand. It also assumes you're somewhat familiar with the different types of content on Twitch, whether they're esports or just general variety streams. And thirdly, this talk assumes you believe that Twitch can help your game be successful. This talk does not go into the why of Twitch. If you are interested in the why, I would encourage you to go back and watch my talk on Monday that I gave. Mobile games worth watching, that goes a little bit into the data and the lift you can expect by having a strong community around your game. This talk is all about the how. How do I Twitch? So with that in mind, let's go into the problem. How do I make my game successful on Twitch? So the first thing I think we want to recognize here is that success is a relative term, right? Success could mean I want a game that's in the top 10 every month. Or success could mean I want someone to broadcast my game at launch, right? But one thing that all success scenarios that I've heard share in common is they all have the use case where a broadcaster's playing a game and streaming it to their community, and there is some amount of viewers in that channel watching that game. Some community of people watching that broadcaster hopefully have fun with that game. And so when you say, how do I make my game successful, what you're really asking is, how do I get broadcasters to play my game? And I put the right broadcasters in there because if a broadcaster has no one in their channel, I don't think a lot of people would call that a successful, game for Twitch. No one's watching it. At the same time, if the broadcaster is sitting there flaming your game, I wouldn't call that a successful, Twitch activation either, right? So getting the right broadcasters here is really important. And fortunately, this problem's been solved. You can do several things. You can pay those broadcasters a ton of money. This is a tried and true solution. We have a great sales team if you're interested in this scenario. But you can also just design a game that broadcasters generally enjoy, that broadcasters want to play. And so this is what this talk is focused on. And I think in general, when you think about building games that could be successful on Twitch or even other video platforms, you should think about how do you make games that broadcasters actually want to play, right? What does the games look like and how do you make them more enjoyable? One other thing I wanted to talk about before we get started, and this is especially true for mobile, is the Twitch Broadcasting SDK. So this was a program that I was in charge of for about 2.5 years. And essentially what the Twitch Broadcasting SDK was a video encoder and audio encoder wrapped in a bunch of functions that made it super easy for developers to plug streaming functionality directly into their game client. And from that, you could one-click stream to Twitch. And when we built this product, the thinking was if we make it easier to create video content, you'll have much more content creators, much more video content, and tons more viewers of that content. Seems like a pretty straightforward hypothesis, and we spent 2.5 years integrating this into about 75 different products. And over the 2.5 years, we learned that we were half right. We were very, very successful at creating more video content. Before and after an integration, on average, we saw about 4x the amount of content creators creating content around the particular game. 4x the amount of content. But despite this, besides having a ton more video content, we actually saw no statistically significant difference in the amount of engagement of that content on Twitch. This essentially meant less than a 1% change in total views. And what we realized was we weren't asking ourselves kind of like the key question of, well, why do people want to watch gaming content in the first place, right? Like, the internet does not have a content problem. It's not like there's not enough videos on YouTube, right, or enough live streams on Twitch. So, you know, the question of, okay, why would you want to watch this stream rather than another stream, just, you know, we weren't asking that problem. And so, as a result, we retired the product, and now when we approach working with game developers, we always ask ourselves, don't ask yourself, how do I make this content creation easier? You want to ask, how do I enable more engaging content? Because with more engaging content, broadcasters are going to have more fun, viewers are going to have more fun, and you're more likely to be successful on Twitch. And I think one of the most illustrative examples of this is if you look at Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go has absolutely exploded everywhere, including on Twitch. And on their own, broadcasters have done a ton of iteration on their broadcasting layout with no technology assistance from Twitch or anyone. This guy, Deadpool, plays, the way he broadcasts is he attaches a cell phone to a selfie stick that he wraps around his waist, and then he has a second cell phone that he plays the game with. Those independently stream up into the cloud that mixes the content together and sends it back to Twitch. And these are things that broadcasters do on their own because they're quite literally professional content creators. If you look at any broadcasting setup, you know, you have green screens, you have lights, you have really, really nice mics and soundboards, and everything that goes into making a successful stream, it's just a lot of work. And so if they can do it for Pokemon Go, if they can do it for any game on Twitch, they can do it for your game if your game is engaging enough. So don't focus on how do I make it easier to create content. If you want to lead to community, if you want to lead to people live streaming your game, focus on how do I create more engaging content. So one of the ways you can do that, and probably the most important place to start, is just ensure that your game is watchable. And there's this concept here of legibility that I have to give credit to Rama Ishmael and Adam Saltzman for coming up with. But legibility is basically the idea where when a broadcaster is playing a game or a player, that person has a certain context for what's going on in the game. And that context is different from any potential audience that could be watching the game. Viewers can enter at any given time. They could be new to the game where the broadcaster could be really advanced. And that delta in context, the difference between the broadcaster and viewer, is really important because if a viewer shows up to a game and doesn't understand what is going on, they're going to be confused and they're going to bounce. So ensuring that no matter when a viewer shows up to a stream, that they are presented with enough information to contextualize what is happening is very, very important. And there's actually a really good example here is professional sports. You know, I consider professional sports kind of the masters of the audience experience, whether it's NBA, whether it's NFL. And giving a local example here, you know, I'm a big Golden State Warriors fan. If I walk into any sports bar in the city and I see the Golden State Warriors on TV, I know within 3 seconds exactly what's happening in that game because they present me with the exact amount of information I need to immediately contextualize what is going on. So if I know they're down by 2, Steph Curry's about to take a 3-point shot, and I know that he has to make that shot or they're going to lose the game, right? And that makes that shot really, really exciting. Now, if they didn't present me with this information, if you just imagine that I didn't get the score, I didn't get the time left, I didn't get the shot clock, well, if I walked into a bar, I saw that exact same shot happening, but without that information, I mean, it would just be a bunch of guys trying to throw a ball through a hoop, right? There's nothing to make that shot exciting if you're not given the proper information to contextualize like why it matters. So the exact same thing is important for your games. One interesting looking to some of the work we've done in here. So we did a project with MIT and Blizzard on StarCraft 2. And one of the questions we were asking is, well, what is really important in the metagame that might not be obvious in the game's commentary, right? And one of the things we discovered talking to a lot of the pro players was the massive importance that upgrades played in the pro scene. Something as, you know, me, I was a diamond player, like, I knew upgrades are important, but nothing like the pro scene. And the reason they were so important is because when a broadcaster hit that upgrade timer, right, whether it's +1 attack, +1 armor, they wanted to engage their opponent as soon as that upgrade was finished so that they could capture as much asymmetric advantage as they could. But the problem was that the pros were so used to hitting that upgrade that they would start the upgrade, it took them a fraction of a second, and they would never have to go back and check because they were so well trained. They knew exactly how long it took. So from a spectator point of view, we had no idea this was even going on. And this dictated the entire metagame in terms of how they were managing their armies. And so what we eventually did is, and you can see on the screen, is we surfaced, as soon as it was about like 13 seconds left, we would surface the countdown until upgrades finished to the viewers. So you knew, okay, this upgrade is about to finish. In this particular case, warp gate tech is about to be done. And if the pro's really good, you want to utilize those upgrades as soon as they're done so they would warp in a bunch of units. And just this small change here completely changed the way that the game was commentated on. And so this is one small example of a small change that had a huge impact into the commentary and just the way that the game was talked about. Best way to figure out whether your game is legible is to stream it yourself. There's quite literally no more direct feedback mechanism you can get than actually streaming your game, figuring out what questions are my users asking, do I get the same question over and over and over again, can I read the text that my game presents on Twitch in the first place. Understanding how your game is played in a live environment is really, really, really important. And then one other example here that I think, and one huge opportunity for mobile developers, we can look at Clash Royale, and one of the reasons why I think this is so important is for mobile games, especially mobile games that use the vertical orientation, you end up getting a lot of blank space on the left and the right of the screen. And broadcasters will fill it with graphics, but they also can fill it with metadata about what's going on in the game. And for mobile games that, where screen real estate's obviously really at a premium, you can put information about what's going on into these spaces, right? And so this is something that we see the community doing on their own in Clash Royale, where they'll actually put their decks in the corner of the screen so that viewers know as soon as they land, okay, this is the deck that the user's playing with, and these are the cards I can inspect, and they're immediately synced to what the broadcaster's going on. So when they're talking about it, when they're anxious for cards or what have you, they know exactly what's going on. And so one of the things we're doing, this is, unfortunately, this is an API we have available today, but with some mobile games that we're really excited about, Twitch, we're actually working to make widgets that broadcasters can consume via their own video production software, whether OBS or XSplit, that allows them to automatically update these metadata visualizations, right? And so you can use the free space that's just naturally occurred when you broadcast mobile games on stage to make the stream more watchable and to provide a lot of information without sacrificing on-screen UI. So that's just one opportunity that we're really excited about. So now I want to talk a little bit about where things are going. This is an area that Twitch and Amazon are both really excited about. And in general, I like to talk about this area by giving an example. When movies first came out in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the first thing they did was record plays. And this made sense at the time. Plays were the dominant form of entertainment content when film was first invented. And so when you recorded a play, you added value to that whole ecosystem, right? People that couldn't see the play live could watch it recorded and everyone was happy, right? But it actually took a while for filmmakers to realize that, well, not only do you not have to can you bring the camera out of the theater, right, and film things that are else in the world, but you don't have to film an entire movie in one linear shot, right? You can, things like post-production editing, camera motion techniques, all of this technology and techniques that go into making film a storytelling medium is something that developed over time. And when we look at Twitch, we see a lot of kind of the similar stuff. And what I mean by that is, when a broadcaster plays a game on Twitch, he exists in two very distinct interactive mediums. One, the game, and the other with his community on Twitch. And these are two things that literally sit on top of one another and don't interact, except the broadcaster that has to split his attention between the two. It's actually really hard if you guys haven't tried. And we simply just don't think it has to be that way. We think that games, broadcasters, and their audience can all exist in one interactive ecosystem. And games that take a development approach that recognize this fact, there's a huge opportunity space that opens up in the world of game design. And so, luckily for us, is we don't have to guess at what that means and what this might be. The Twitch community has been experimenting with different audience engagement techniques for the last 5 years. And so by watching what they do, we can learn what effective engagement techniques work within the Twitch platform. So how do broadcasters engage their audience? Well, the first is what we like to call inclusion. Inclusion is one of the most common monetization mechanics on Twitch, and it basically capitalizes on the fact that viewers love playing games with their broadcasters. If you've ever heard of Sub Sunday, it's pretty much a standard for most channels on Twitch, where people will pay broadcasters to be subscribers to their channel so that they can play games with them. Team 2G is one of the more popular teams on Twitch. They even went so far as to trademark the term Sub Wars, which is a way where viewers can pay to either play the broadcaster or they get organized in the teams and they challenge other channels. Needless to say, massively popular. The problem is organizing these matches is an absolute pain. Even on the PC platform, where it's fairly easy to copy paste, usernames, you still have to, as a broadcaster, say, everyone DM me your off-platform ID. Let me grab that. Let me add you as a friend. Wait for you to accept that friend request. When you eventually accept that friend request, okay, then I'm gonna go back into the game. I have to remember what your user ID is because it's different from your Twitch ID. I have to invite you into my match. By the time I fill my match, well, the first two guys have left to eat dinner, right? And then I have to reorganize that again, because everyone else in the channel wants to play. And they'll do this again and again and again and again because it's so valuable to their audience. Well, we don't think it has to be that way. We think this interaction is something that through integration we can enable with a one-click experience. And we've done that with a few games. This game called Streamline is from a studio Proletariat out of Boston. The game is built as kind of a 1v15. Broadcaster plays this hunter character, and then his viewers play these 15 runners that run around the map gaining points. And when we were first experimenting with this invite technology, not only did we find the broadcasters really liked it, but we found it had other benefits as well. For our first tests, when we set up with this broadcaster, his name's Punji Stick, we would set up the test where the Proletariat staff would play the 15 runners, and Punji Stick would play the broadcaster. And this was just because the invite tech was new, we were still kind of working out bugs, and then afterwards we would ask them, well, how did you like that match? And it turns out most people liked it. This is a survey we offered to Punji Stick's community afterwards. Most people liked it, some 3 or 4s, and that was fine. Now, the next week we went through, we felt a little bit more confident, and we allowed Punji Stick to play with his own community. Same build of the game, same channel, same time of day, just 1 week later, and with Punji Stick playing with his own viewers, and we found, same survey, people liked it twice as much. And this result happened again and again and again and again. While we don't have a causation for this, our hypothesis is, similar to if my cousin who lives in the Bay invites me to watch her 6-year-old play soccer, I'm gonna say, well, I'll come if you really want me to, but I'm not a huge fan of 6th grade soccer, right? Or 6-year-old soccer. Now, if it was my own kid, I don't have kids, but someone I knew really well, that totally changes the game. Now that match becomes really exciting because I know the people participating. And we think this same mechanic is what we're seeing here in these results. And so by making your game more inclusive and more, by solving a problem for broadcasters that the problem they have of organizing matches to their viewers, which on mobile is an astronomically harder problem, right? Because you have to type in little names on the keyboard. Not only are you solving that problem, making it easier, but you're doing something in a way that actually makes the game more enjoyable for everyone involved as well. So inclusion is one. Another we have here is recognition. And recognition, if you spend any time watching Twitch, you've seen this a million times, where viewers love getting attention from the broadcasters. So much so that they're willing to quite literally pay money so that their username pops up on screen for half a second. And this is quite literally the largest revenue stream for most broadcasters, is just these donations that allow the viewers to get a fraction of a second of time of attention from the broadcaster when they say, thank you, XYZ, for donating. The problem is, if you look at the screen, well, I was watching my game and now I have this like weird GIF that pops up and totally detracts from my experience as a viewer. And that's really annoying, right? But it provides so much value, people are willing to put up for it and do it over and over and over again. Well, for games that say, okay, can we actually make this better? This is a game called Guild of Dungeoneering. And one of the things they did, and this happens across a lot of games, is just allow the broadcaster to name the characters. And when they do that, you'll find, and this is true across all channels, they'll take names from their audience and just drop that directly into the game. And this is so common that there's actually several software solutions where the broadcaster, all they have to do is click a button and it automatically takes a random viewer name, copies it to the clipboard, so they can just paste it directly into the game client and name their characters after their viewers. And the reason they do this is because now you can recognize your community in a contextually relevant way, where you're not detracting from the community experience, right? And this game took it a step further, where you could even go back after characters died. They could go back and, the broadcasters say, oh, Sam, you sucked, or Liler, you're awesome. That was like really sweet what you did there, right? Just ways to make that recognition more contextually relevant makes the game more engaging, right? Makes it more fun for broadcasters, makes them more likely to play, and hopefully makes your game more successful on Twitch as a result. And on top of that, if we combine this with inclusion, right, if you're making a game that's inclusive, well, then you have way more opportunities for recognition, right? Who is the best? Who is the worst? You could do a GoldenEye style, most frantic or whatever, right? Tons of opportunities for recognition when you take that approach. So third mechanic we're going to talk about is one called motivation. Motivation it's somewhat new on Twitch, but basically they're loyalty programs where for every 3 minutes or 5 minutes I'm in a channel, I get a point. Usually broadcasters brand these points or virtual points. Swiftor calls his Swift Bucks. The top one's Latch. You get experience points for a character that you level up. And with these points, you essentially do one thing, is you bid on the outcome of matches. And this is something that the broadcaster will manage themselves. They'll say, I'm about to play a match, let's open up betting. And the audience can use the points they accrued to say, yes, I think the broadcaster is going to win, or no, I think he's going to lose. And over the last year plus, this system has absolutely exploded because viewers love it. And there's really only one thing that they do with these points, is they climb these leaderboards. They go up and up and up, and at the end of a month or so, the broadcaster will hit a big reset button, because there's really nothing else to do with these points. Well, as game designers, the question is there anything else we could do with points, right? And I think there's a lot. One example here, a game called Super Fight, which is actually coming out next week. So they use the same system. Viewers get points for voting, and if they win, then they get more. Once the viewer accumulates a bunch of points, if he ever then goes and decides to buy the game, he has the opportunity to link his Twitch ID and then claim all the points he's earned as a viewer. And now he started the game with a ton of points in hand. And he can spend those on cards, he can spend those on upgrades, and he can spend them on a ton of different ways to make the game more exciting in itself. So they've taken a mechanic that's massively popular on Twitch, and they've turned it to a progression mechanic without the users even having to buy the game. And now going back to the other mechanics, well, maybe we can make those points so that the broadcaster could recognize the viewers, or maybe we could make those points as a way where viewers can spend to play with the broadcaster, right? Making them more inclusive. But just another way that broadcasters engage, where we feel like there's a huge opportunity for game developers to make some really awesome mechanics for broadcasters. Last thing we want to talk about is where can games engage audiences? And the most obvious example here, or one of the most popular ones on Twitch, is a game called Quiplash by Jackbox Games out of Chicago. And this was a game where the audience can take out their phone, go to Jackbox TV, and they can link their game session with the broadcaster's play session. And once they do that, then they can vote on the outcome. And this game, literally the vote yes or no, I like this or I don't like it, was so popular that pretty much every variety broadcaster on Twitch adopted this game and led to millions and millions of views across Twitch. They had a second game called Drawful 2 come out in June, same result. And for mobile developers, the thing that we're really excited about this is you had millions of people playing and engaging with the games on Twitch. Well, if you put this voting mechanic into your mobile app, you can turn those Twitch views and all that engagement into mobile installs, right? Now, if a user had to go and download the app in order to access the interactive functionality that they're presented, in order to participate more deeply with the broadcaster, we think this is a massive opportunity for incentivized installs on Twitch. And PC games have been doing this as well, but one of the things we've seen because of this is it actually increases the level of engagement. Over 50% of the audience who interacted with a viewer controller from the game Streamline didn't chat. And we didn't see any decrease in chat, and so what this meant is you're effectively doubling the engagement level on one of the most engaging platforms on the planet simply by giving the viewers an alternative way to interact with this game. So something that we're really, really bullish about, really excited about, and think that there's a huge opportunity for mobile developers especially. So just quickly to recap, build a game broadcasters want to play, focus on enabling more engaging content, make your game legible, consider how broadcasters engage, inclusion, recognition, motivation, give the audience influence, and reach out to Twitch when you do. Developer success, you can reach out to us at dev.twitch.tv, and you can follow us on Twitter at TwitchDev, and that's pretty much it. Thank you.